A warm welcome to you, dear students. This video will mainly feature two doctrines, namely Doctrine of Constructive Notice and Doctrine of Indoor Management. These doctrines aim to balance fairness between protecting outsiders and ensuring companies operate according to their own rules. So let's get started. According to Section 399, the Memorandum and Articles of Association, when they are registered with a registrar of a company, become public documents and they can be inspected by an outsider who wishes to have business with the company. Doctrine of Constructive Notice states that any outsider is supposed to be aware about the rules laid in Memorandum and Articles of Association. Every person who is dealing with the company will be presumed to know the contents of memorandum and articles. Both the memorandum and articles are public documents. So, any outsider dealing with the company should have become familiar with their contents. Doctrine of Constructive Notice is criticized on the basis of it being an unreal doctrine. This is because people know a company through its directors and not through its documents. I can illustrate this to you with the help of an example. Suppose there is a company and the articles of that company say that the directors of the company can exercise certain powers only when prior approval is taken. Now, for an outsider, it is difficult to find out whether a prior approval was taken or not. Therefore, to mitigate such a situation, the outsiders who are dealing with a company can assume that if the directors or officers of a company are acting in a certain manner, they have taken the necessary approval. That's where the second doctrine, that is Doctrine of Indoor Management, comes in to protect the outsider. Now let us look at the Doctrine of Indoor Management in more depth. According to Doctrine of Indoor Management, any person dealing with a company is entitled to presume that whatever has been written in the memorandum and articles of association of a company is being duly followed by the company and its directors. The doctrine of indoor management was first established in the landmark case of Royal British Bank versus Turquant. Hence, it is also called Turquant's rule. Let us understand this case of Royal British Bank versus Turquant. So, in this case, there was a company and the directors of the company had the authority given in the Articles of Association to borrow money by issuing a bond by passing a resolution for the same in the meeting of the company. Now, the company's directors gave a bond to Turquant and borrowed money from him without passing any such resolution. In this case, Turquant was not aware that the resolution had actually not been passed in the company's meeting. Later, a dispute arose between the company and Turquant, and the case was taken to the court. And the court decided that the company was liable on the bond as Turquant was entitled to assume that the resolution of the company in its meeting has been passed. So, the rationale behind the doctrine of indoor management is that whatever is happening internally in a company is not a matter of public. Any outsider who's dealing with the company should know the articles and memorandums of the company, but he or she is not required to conduct an investigation whether the rules laid down in memorandum and articles are followed or not. So you see, the doctrine of constructive notice and doctrine of indoor management carry a counter effect to each other. Doctrine of constructive notice puts an onus on an outsider that he should be aware of the matters stated in memorandum and articles. On the other hand, doctrine of indoor management protects an outsider from any internal irregularities which have taken place in a company. Now, there are certain exceptions to the doctrine of indoor management. Let us look at those exceptions one by one. The first is knowledge of irregularity, which states that if an outsider has actual knowledge of irregularity in a company, then he cannot claim the benefit of doctrine of indoor management. Second is negligence, that is, if the outsider could have discovered the irregularity within a company with a very minimum effort, then he cannot claim the benefit of the rule of doctrine of indoor management. Next is forgery, which means if an outsider depends upon documents which are forged, then he cannot receive the benefit of this doctrine. So we conclude that the doctrine of constructive notice assumes that outsiders dealing with a company should be aware of its public documents such as memorandum and articles of association and cannot claim ignorance of their contents. In contrast, the doctrine of indoor management protects outsiders by allowing them to assume that a company's internal procedures have been properly followed. I hope this clears up these two important doctrines. Thank you for listening.